All right. So this video is going to go over the breakout room, the intro to Macbeth. All right, so it gives you the directions here, the link to the breakout room, tells you to work through each part of the breakout room, carefully read, right, to the very end, take your screenshot and submit it. So let's click on our link and go into our breakout room. So it starts us with the Globe Theater. Welcome to the Macbeth breakout room. Our time machine has broken down. To repair it, we need to acquire some parts that can only be found in different elements in Shakespeare's time. Otherwise, we may never be able to return to our present time. Visit the different areas and pass the test to collect all the parts. But be careful. If you falter during the search, the temporary doors might close, making it more and more difficult for you to return. Right, so we see we have 4 things we need to get through. We start with our first one, Shakespeare's Life and Times. Find out about Shakespeare's life and times by reading the timeline information carefully. Right, and this is, I recommend that you jot down some notes from this. Right, so in 1564, he was born. In 1582, he married Anne Hathaway. 1585, he moved to London. Also in 1585, he had twins. 1583 is when his first child was born. Right, this gives you information about London. During Shakespeare's time, London was a busy place filled with trash on the sidewalk, the heads of executed criminals placed on poles in crowded streets. Then here it tells us 1592, his plays began to be performed in London. Right, 1593 to 94, he wrote poetry because the theaters were closed because of the Black Plague. So some more information here. The arts. Queen Elizabeth was a patron of the arts and controlled the theater. Then we get here 1594. He becomes a founding member of the Lords Chamberlain. Down here in 1596, his son Hamnet dies. 1603, Queen Elizabeth I dies. She reigned for 44 years. England did prosper under her reign. She did not take kindly to traitors. One of her couriers, Robert de Valois, led a rebellion against her, and she had him beheaded. Education. Children begin school around the age of 4 to learn how to read. Girls left school at the age of 6, so they only got about 2 years of education. Then they left school to learn from their mother to run the household. Queen Elizabeth was a Protestant queen in a time of great political and religious turmoil. A group of angry Catholics even had plans to assassinate the queen. Political groups were aligned as Catholic or Protestant. 1599, Williams Acting Company builds the famous Globe Theater. 1609, his sonnets are published. 1600 through 1606, he writes his most famous tragedies. 1603, they changed their name to the King's Men. Fashion. At this time, clothing reflected one's rank and place in society. Those dressed above their social status could be arrested. 1613, the Globe Theater burns down. 1616, Shakespeare returns to his birthplace, and he dies there at the age of 52. So all of this information you're going to use to escape these rooms. So which of the following did William Shakespeare not do? Right. So we know he married Anne Hathaway. He did have a family, and he did help build the Globe Theater. So this one has to be the one he did not do. We learned that he wrote his sonnets during the plague. So yes, he had to be alive during the plague. She reigned during Shakespeare's time. Yes, part of it she did. How long did she reign? That's one of those blocks told us, 44 years. She controlled the theater. Yes, it told us she did. She did not treat traitors kindly. That's true. And it did tell us about this Roberts. And she had him, it says she had him hanged. No, she had him beheaded. All right. Which community plotted to assassinate Queen Elizabeth? It was the Catholics. Elizabeth was Protestant. So, girls, what age did they leave school? We talked about they only went 2 years. They left around 6 years of age. What would you not see in London? Right? It talked about there were the heads of the executed criminals up on poles. There were crowded streets. There were trash everywhere. It didn't say anything about elephants. So that would be the one that wasn't what you would see. Those dressing above their status could be arrested. True. Right. And this is the one I think most people were having trouble with. Right? So this is where we have to go back and we have to put them in order. So we know the first thing, let's see, we have he moves to London, writes his most famous, finds helps found the Lord's Chamberlain, writes poetry during the plague, moves back to his birthplace, his son dies, he marries Anne, he changes the name. So we know that he marries Anne has to be first, and he moves back has to be last. Right? So after he moves, and I like to move them all on one side so I can see what I have here. So out of these, what does he do next? We know that it can't be this because he doesn't start writing till he moves to London. This can't be because he has to move to London before. That writing he does in London. Changing the name he does in London. So it's either going to be moved to London or his son dies. And his son actually dies when he's in London. So he marries Anne, then he moves to London. He's not there very long before the plague hits. So he starts writing poetry during the plague. And then he helps found the Lord Chamberlains. Then his son passes away. After his son passes away, that's when he writes his most famous tragedies. Then we've got this one left, so it must fit here. So you want to write down that code. 7143628 Let's see if that lets us out. 7143628 All right. So we got the piece. We got one piece. So now we got to go on. That was the first part. Now we're going on to the second part, the Globe Theater. The Globe Theater was built by William Shakespeare's acting company. Find out more by reading Interesting Facts and The Escape Room. Look around and learn all about the theater founded by Shakespeare and his men. Right? So these are the questions you are going to have to answer. You're going to have to read these. You might want to jot down some notes if your memory isn't that good. Right? Because then you're going to answer questions about them. The Globe Theater was built in 1576. The Globe was a theater in London where many of William Shakespeare's plays were performed. It was built in the Lord Chamberlain's men. It was built by the Lord Chamberlain's men, which is the acting company Shakespeare was a member of. It was large open-air theater. It had a circular stage in the center, and there were 3 levels of seating around it. It could hold up to 3,000 people. That was a lot of people for back then to be in one place. It was the largest and most popular theater in London during that time period. The Globe was famous for its performances of plays by Shakespeare and other playwrights. Mainly it was Shakespeare. These plays were usually performed in the afternoon. Members of all classes attended. If the Queen wished to see a play, the troupe of actors would be summoned to court. The Globe was also a place of innovation, and it was here that many of the conventions of the modern theater were developed. The plays performed at the Globe were lively and entertaining, and they often featured music, dance, and special effects. Unfortunately, the Globe Theater burned down in 1613 during a performance of Shakespeare's play Henry VIII. It was rebuilt the following year, but it was eventually closed in 1642 due to Puritan opposition to the theater. Today, a modern reconstruction of the Globe Theater stands on the original site in London. Interesting facts about the theater. When the theater company could not pay rent for the Globe, they tore it down and used the timber to rebuild across the river. Everyone enjoyed the theater. The balcony seats were reserved for upper class. The middle class were commoners, and they would sit in what was called the galleries. The lower class citizens would stand on a dirty floor. This area was referred to as the pit. Women were prohibited from acting in the theater, so boys played all women roles. Sometimes, if spectators were disappointed in the performance, they would throw fruit at the actors. Oh, and I missed that last one. All right, so we will have to try. There was one more I didn't get to read. What did the company do when they couldn't pay the rent on their theater? Right? They tore it down and used the lumber to rebuild across the river. The people who sat in the balcony, they were the highest. They were the upper class. All parts, including the female characters, were played by men and boys. True. To escape the room, answer the following questions correctly. Sometimes the audience on the main level threw this when they did not like the actor's performance. Without capital letters. So what did they throw? They threw fruit. No capital letters, fruit. All right, so now we have another piece. So now we're going to the language. Just like any other author, Shakespeare used words, rhymes, and rhythm to create colorful characters and intriguing plots. Shakespeare's plays are sometimes a little difficult to understand because of the language. Believe it or not, Shakespeare's plays are written in English. He uses a form of Old English mixed in with a lot of figurative language and literary allusions. Some of the jokes and nuisance might go over our heads, but the audience would understand. People in Elizabethan time did not speak in verse like the characters in Shakespeare's plays do. Shakespeare wrote in both verse and prose and included much rhythm and rhyme in his work. Shakespeare is known for his extensive use of metaphor and figurative language, which can make his plays seem dense and difficult to understand for modern audiences. Shakespeare was a master of wordplay and used a wide range of literary devices such as puns, alliteration, and rhyme to great effect in his plays. Shakespeare's plays often feature elaborate sequelities in which characters speak their innermost thoughts aloud. These are important tools for character development and are used to reveal the character's motivation and desires. He also uses asides, which allow the character to speak only to one character on the scene. Even if the actor speaks very loudly, the other characters seemingly do not hear. Shakespeare's plays are written in a variety of styles, including comedy, tragedy, and history, and he is known for his ability to capture the full range of human emotions in his characters. All right, people in Shakespeare's time spoke in rhyme verses. No, just like we don't today, they didn't then. Shakespeare's English is actually English. True. He used several different forms of language in his play. True. To break out of the room, answer the following question. So he did prose, and what else? I think it's verse. Right, so we got through the language. Now we just have themes and issues. Shakespeare wrote his plays to reflect his time's conflicts, struggles, and relevant information. The audience would have related to Shakespeare's issues and superstitions. Read the information by clicking on the icons. Read the information very carefully. The political climate in England when Macbeth was written was unstable, tremendously and unstable. The play was written and first performed during the early years of the reign of King James I, who had recently ascended to the throne after the death of Queen Elizabeth I. The period was marked by frequent political intrigues, factionalism, and religious tensions, as the country was still grappling with the aftermath of the Reformation and the continued struggle between Catholics and Protestants. Moreover, James I's own reign was marked by numerous assassination plots and rebellions, including the Gunpowder Plot, which would have a significant impact on the political landscape of the time. Against this backdrop of uncertainty and political instability, Macbeth explores the corrupting influence of power and ambition and the tragic consequences that can result when individuals pursue their own selfish interests at the expense of others. The historical event that served as the inspiration for Shakespeare's Macbeth was the Gunpowder Plot, a failed attempt to blow up the House of the Lords and assassinate King James I of England in 1605 by a group of Catholic conspirators. The plot was discovered before it could be carried out, and the conspirators were arrested and executed. The events surrounding the Gunpowder Plot had a significant impact on English society and influenced Shakespeare's portrayal of political ambition and betrayal in Macbeth. The overarching theme of Shakespeare's play Macbeth is the corrupting influence of unchecked ambition and the struggle for power. The play explores the consequences of seeking power at all costs and the tragic downfall that can result from succumbing to one's own ambitions. Macbeth's insatiable thirst for power and his willingness to do whatever it takes to achieve it ultimately led to his downfall and the destruction of those around him. The play also touches on other themes such as guilt, fate, and the supernatural. But the central theme of Macbeth remains the corrupting influence of ambition and the pursuit of power. Witches and Elizabethan beliefs in the play. During the time when Macbeth was written, the prevailing belief about witches was that they were very powerful beings who had made a pact with the devil. Witches were believed to have the ability to cast spells, curse individuals, and causing them harm or even death. This belief was widespread in Europe, and it led to a wave of witch hunts and trials that continued through the late 16th and 17th centuries. In Macbeth, Shakespeare incorporates these beliefs into the character of the three witches, who play a significant role in shaping the play's theme and plot. The superstition surrounding the play. A long-standing superstition in the theatrical world surrounds Shakespeare's play Macbeth. According to superstition, it is considered bad luck to say the name Macbeth inside a theater unless it is being performed on stage. Instead, actors and theater personnel often refer to the play as the Scottish play or the Bard's play. The origin of this superstition is unclear, but there are several theories. One popular theory is that the play's use of witchcraft and dark themes has led to a belief that it is cursed. According to this theory, saying the name Macbeth inside a theater will bring about bad luck, accidents, or even death to those involved in the production. Another theory is that superstition is rooted in the play's popularity and the frequency with which it is performed. Because Macbeth is one of Shakespeare's most frequently performed plays, actors and theater personnel may have come to associate it with the challenges and difficulties of staging a successful production. As a result, they may have developed the habit of referring to the play by a different name to avoid any potential jinx. Despite the lack of concrete evidence to support the superstition, many actors and theater personnel continue to take it seriously and take precautions to avoid saying the name Macbeth inside a theater. These precautions may include performing a ritual to dispel bad luck, such as spinning around 3 times or reciting a line from another Shakespearean play. Right. What historical event served as the inspiration for Shakespeare's Macbeth? We learned it was the gun plot trying to kill King James the First. The prevailing belief about witches. They were powerful. Out of these choices, we know they believe they exist. They did not think they were harmless, so those two can't be. They didn't think they were healers because they said they would hurt people. So the only one left would be they were powerful. The overarching theme, right? It's not the love of nature. It doesn't have anything to do with tradition. So we're talking about loyalty or the corruption of power. And it is the corruption of power. What is the name actors will never say when performing the play? Write it in capital letters. Right. Macbeth. There we go. Right. And you would have to screenshot that and submit it to the room here, to the assignment. So you scroll down here, choose a file to upload. And then tell it to submit. Now I just chose a random file. you would put your screenshot in there.